I wanted to be the special person that could save someone's life. And I was just obsessed with that growing up. And that was huge. And I slowly realized, like, there are superpowers in this world in a sense. Growing up in the Bay, growing up in the West, I never had to worry about food on my table. Like, alhamdulillah, 3 times a day, I was richer than 99.98% of the world. Like, there's never food not on my table.
My question to you is, how do you help people recognize that when solving these problems, it's not about immediately solving it, but really that we're building the foundation layer. So in 10 years, it never becomes a problem.
I noticed with BoyCat, what was really cool is that I had hubs in different areas all around the world. If someone had a problem in Australia, I could connect them to a solution in France. If someone had a really cool product in Japan, I could send that product to the US. I was so sad our community didn't back us up as much as our enemy tried to buy us out. Throw anyone else under the bus, as long as I can be Masjid president, I can be on the board, I can control decisions, I can bring in this imam, that imam, whatever. It was never, we need to do what's best for the community. It's like, can I do what's best for my community? And I hated that.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Caravan Podcast. And today we're joined with the founder of BoyCat, Adil Abbuthalha. How's it going?
Alhamdulillah, man. Thank you so much for having me. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How's Dallas treating you so far? You've came in 2 days ago, was it? Or?
Dallas is flat, bro.
It is flat.
I go on an on-ramp
flat.
and bro, I see literally Mexico and I see Canada. Like, that's what happens.
You know, other people have mountains. We have concrete, hollowed mountains. So
Amazing.
that's kind of it. It's kind of fun though, because it feels like you're in Mario Kart, just way less rainbow flags, and that has a dual meaning to that. That being in
Yeah.
the
You are
South.
in Texas, so
Yeah, exactly. But you know, it's always a pleasure seeing you. I think the last time we crossed paths was in London. I know you were having a BoyCat event there, but it was collating same time as Muslim Tech Fest. But we know you were giving a talk there too. Is that right?
Yeah, alhamdulillah. It's been a year since I've been in the public speaking world, if that's what you want to call it.
Sure.
I still have no idea why people bring me out to speak. Like,
Do you mean that from like a place of like, you know, being humble as you are, or are you like generally, because we can tell you the answer if
no, go for it. You can tell me the answer too. But
it's because you're incredibly good looking. I mean, that has to be it.
mashallah.
Bro seeing himself in his glasses reflection at this point. No, like genuinely, it's because like there are so many people that actually did really cool stuff, and like I feel like I've barely scratched the surface on a lot, and like this entire world is new to me. Like my life was so different now 2 years ago, right? It was wake up, masjid, work 9 to 5, gym, game, be a degenerate, go sleep, repeat every single day.
Well, I mean, I'm curious what the degenerate part involves, because that was like what you just described was like David Goggins with, you know, without all the negatives. So I guess, how do you relax? That alone seems like a really impressive schedule.
No, I mean that's just like that's a boring life to live.
Why do you think that?
If you die the next day when you live that schedule, can you really tell God, I did everything I could do with everything you gave me? Could I really answer the question of like, I used all the wisdom, the blessings, the opportunities to really make the most of my time here?
Is that a thought that we're jumping right into it. So, but is that a thought that you've kind of toiled with for like days and months before you made a shift outside of that norm? Or was there a breaking point where you're like, I got to snap out of this, you know, mundane, as some way might say, schedule?
I think it was different. It's a roller coaster. So it started off at the point where I think I really found Islam again. Because I think no matter if you're born Muslim or not, you have to go find Islam, like at some point. And I was really fortunate that it happened to me at an early age.
How old were you then?
13, 14 is when I was like, this makes sense. This is right. And then there's a period of time where because of that and that mindset kind of had an upward, quote unquote, upward trajectory of trying to be different. And then there's a period of time where everything fell apart and then rebuilding it back up and type of thing.
So this breaking period that you said, things falling apart, was that things you were experiencing in your life, or was it more so a spiritual, fragmentation that was happening in your teenage years?
It was both. I think to start off, it was like, I grew up around Muslims. Mm-hmm. My mom was masjid principal, my dad was masjid president. Islam was always around me, always in the masjid. I ended up hating Muslims because I saw how disgusting they were. Like politics, culture, nationalism, just like it destroyed so much of like the masjid experience for me. So I was so turned off from it.
Were you growing up in the U.S.?
Yeah, I grew up in the Bay Area.
In the Bay Area.
Yeah.
Wow. And what year was this? Like early, like post, like 9/11, like 2005?
It was like early 2000s basically. I'm not that old.
Yeah.
What were some of the things that you saw that really made you feel that way at a young age?
I saw how much division culture created within the Muslim community, and that really bothered me because it was like, we all have the same goal. We're all trying to unite people. We're all trying to, for example, save up enough money to buy like a proper space for the masjid that we're at. But instead, the different communities, I can name drop communities, right? It's controversial enough.
Sure. Yeah,
I hate, I'm kidding.
Straight to the camera.
the Afghans, the Egyptians, the Sudani, like different groups created their different pockets. And
like
they all
cliques were being
They
formed.
wanted to have power. Like they just wanted to like have that, like, throw anyone else under the bus. As long as I can be masjid president, I can be on the board, I can control decisions, I can bring in this imam, that imam, whatever. It was never, we need to do what's best for the community. It's like, can I do what's best for my community? And I hated that. I saw my parents, so I'm biracial technically. My dad is on the Yemeni side, my mom's on the Sri Lankan side. I have Arab and Desi. I'm never Arab enough for the Arabs, never Desi enough for the Desis. I get cooked both ways.
You're good looking for a man.
I was going to say 100% beautiful though. So
this is like the fourth comment that you guys have commented on this. I mean, I don't know what kind of podcast we're filming.
I think it's working. I mean that's an incredible realization to have, especially that like early of an age. One of the things that I feel like we have to kind of go through, especially growing up in the West as Muslims, is that we tend to be fed both in our experiences locally, as you were, kind of witnessing, but also through media and propaganda about Islam, right? And I think one thing that really helps me kind of grab myself sometimes is, you really have to judge it by the principles of Islam and not so much those who adhere to it, because that is inherently the human element that is making it flawed, right? When were you able to kind of filter that out, like start seeing that, oh, this is, or maybe this is the case, but like, oh, you're seeing, oh, these are like the human issues of it, not so the Islamic issues of, this clique mindset or this tribal mindset that was being integrated that you're witnessing.
Yeah. So I still hate Muslims.
Okay, fair. Okay. And that's a wrap. Next up, Netanyahu.
No. I think that the actual more realistic aspect of it was I didn't realize that things were separated until that moment. So like probably when I was 8, 9, I saw how bad they did my parents, basically. Like they threw them under the bus, they accused them of things, lied upon myself, my family and stuff. And I was like, dude, Muslims suck, man. Like you have a perfect book, you have a perfect guide. How do you not follow that? Like, so I knew Islam was always right. I just knew Muslims sucked. And I wanted to like disassociate. I was like, there's no way I'm getting near these people. And realistically, even though I had my quote unquote realization, everything when I was 13, 14, it didn't come until like post college when I was like, maybe Muslims aren't all that bad type of thing. And I think what really hit was there's key moments I can think of where people find Islam or they don't. It's those early childhood moments. It's college where either you choose to be Muslim or not. Like that's a huge defining factor, especially for Muslims in the West. It's actually why I quit MSA board, because I hated it. I was on board for like 6 months and I saw how trash they treated the people that were on the fence, or like there's elitism. And then literally the day after I quit, we had an FBI raid on our thing because they were like, we need to investigate this MSA for terrorism ties. And I was like, what is going on? And then the next key moments are usually the traumatic events that happen in people's lives, right? So it's like family dies, friend dies, car crash, near death experience type of thing.
So in terms of early leadership, right, being on an MSA board, I mean, that's, may not be the world's biggest responsibility.
Don't remind me.
But it's a responsibility, right? Obviously, you have this this experienced judgment on this, on this demographic of people and Muslims, right? And you're going into this leadership role. Were you feeling optimistic that you'd be able to, shift how it was being portrayed or the culture around it? Was that back of your mind of like, oh, be the change that the world wants to see? Was that kind of motivating you to going into that board position?
No, dude, I was arrogant. Like, that's strictly what it was. Like, growing up, superheroes are my thing, man. Like, I wanted to be Batman. If I could be Batman, I'd be Batman. Outside his parents getting killed, like, you know, I'd be Batman, 100%. You know, Spider-Man would love it. Same thing, right? It's just like, I wanted to be the special person that could save someone's life and then have a, you know, comic book made out like after me type of thing. I was just obsessed with that growing up, and that was huge. And I slowly realized, like, there are superpowers in this world in a sense. And I noticed that, like, you know, each prophet, they had their miracles and stuff. And I was like, those are superpowers. Like, you know, a lot of the stories that we read about are inspired by those stories. And so, like, that was huge. And so that was a huge factor. And then you fast forward a little bit more, and I was like, I'm this 13-year-old, 14-year-old kid that has this entire dream of, you know, my childhood dream, and kind of like, we'll get into it later if you want to, but
Let's get into it right now.
Let's get into it right now.
Yeah.
All right. I'll go to this moment, and I'll talk about the leadership right
Perfect.
after. I've actually told this story on a different podcast, so watch the other podcast.
We'll just sound edited it.
So what happened was at 13, 14, I basically fell in love with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And I learned that growing up in the Bay, growing up in the West, I never had to worry about food on my table. Like, alhamdulillah, 3 times a day, I was richer than 99.98% of the world. Like, there was never food not on my table. And, like, that was good. Warm shower. I want you guys to not take a hot shower for a week. You'll be so appreciative of warm showers again. If you sleep on the floor one time a month, you're so appreciative of your bed after that. But going back to this, I was like, dude, all these companies, all these billionaires that are coming up, Zuckerberg, and not to call him, I'm calling him out. Yeah. But, you know, it's like, do something good for, like, the people that are on the bottom of that pyramid, because, you know, you have food, water, shelter, then you have, you know, family and everything else, and you go up in self-actualization, self-esteem and stuff. And I just didn't care about that. I'm like, if I have the opportunity to help someone like you, who's at the top of the pyramid, versus someone who actually, like, needs food and water, internally, I felt so much better helping the person with that. Mm-hmm. Externally, I mean, whatever favors we can call in, we'll call in. But for the most part, it's that part. The second part was like, all right, now I'm starting to combine this idea of, we need to start caring about the people at the bottom. Like, there's so many people that just need help. Then you have this idea of, I want to be Batman. And then you start bringing these other elements, and this is when Islam was really coming in more. I'm really attached to orphans. So Syrian war was really going on the time. You start seeing a bunch of Islamic relief stuff popping up. You start seeing other charities bringing up, like, sponsor an orphan, take care of an orphan. Oh, no, the U.S. drone killed like 1,000 more orphans. Like, it's like those things. And I'm just like, dude, it's so sad. Like, I have the opportunity to argue with my parents, and that's in itself a massive blessing. But then these kids don't have the opportunity anymore. They have no one there for them to even, you know, not even just love them, but even argue with them, right? All they have is, like, nothing. And orphanages as a whole, especially in the Middle East, they're not great. A lot of them are funded by different, you know, government organizations, and a lot of them are dealing with a lot of abuse in the systems, and, like, those kids get thrown out once they're 18. Like, they're useless. Because there's no education, no like reintegration systems, nothing. My mom's technically an orphan, and so I was always attached that way. And then studying Islam and stuff, it's like, not studying Islam, but just hearing tidbits of things at the time. The really big one was, if you take care of an orphan, you and the Prophet like this in Jannah. And I was combining all these elements together, and I was basically like, dude, I can be a hero. I want to take care of orphans. I want to take care of these people on the bottom of the pyramid. And I knew Islam was talking about it. Like, there's this concept of, like, being best friends with the Prophet. And so I was like, what is the only way you can be a hero in this life and the next? Well, I can't become a messenger. I can't become a prophet. I can't become a sahaba or tabi'in. I'm definitely not going to become a scholar. Like, you know.
I definitely won't be a scholar.
No, I mean, like, I didn't. At that age, I was like, to be a scholar, you have to go become a Bedouin in, like, the desert, like Sahara Desert type of thing. You know, like, that's what it was. And just go and lock in and study. And I was like, those guys can study and they can do what they want, but they'll never actually, like, be a change maker in the world. Like, they're never going to be, you never see Bezos or Musk, or at the time, you know, like, people that we used to look up to be like those scholars. Like, they'd just be like the guys that would take money from those guys type of thing. And so that was really big for me. And so I was like, formulating the idea of, like, what is this concept of being a hero, and, like, Islam would, like, how can you, like, have it forever, basically. And for me, the question was really like, not how do you want to be remembered, but how do you want to be recognized? And for me, on the day of judgment, inshallah, when I meet the Prophet, I want him to recognize me in a certain way. And that's what I like really stick to every week. It's like, are my intentions on the right path? So he can recognize me in a certain way. And the reality is I want him to recognize me in a way that it's like, I'm so glad you weren't part of the Sahaba. I'm so glad you weren't part of the Tabi'in and the people after it. I'm so glad you were part of this generation in the West in this moment in time, because without you, this would not have happened. Islam spreading, people being saved, whatever it is. And that I was just like, if I can be his best friend at that moment, taking orphans and him recognizing that, I'd be like, alhamdulillah, that's good.
It's such a powerful question, and such a great way to like recenter your intention and stay on track with what you originally started with. My question is like, what is your answer to that question? Like, how would you want the Prophet ﷺ to recognize you?
For me, it was always tying it back into orphans. I want him to be like, okay, so my mom has this little nickname of Abu Hurairah for me. She calls me that a lot because I'm always around cats. You'll tell from the company, you'll tell from everything else I do. It's always cat related. But she was like, I'd rather see you be the father of orphans, not just the father of kittens. And I was always attached to it. I was like, my dream from a get-go, I was like, I just want to go build orphanages. I'm going to make money and build it. I didn't really understand it at the time. But then in 13, 14, 15, those ages, you start developing an idea of how things work. You start doing a little bit of research on Google. You start thinking you know everything. And I was like, I'm going to build an orphan reintegration system. And what that means is we're going to change how orphans are done in the Middle East and around the world, and then basically, quote unquote, franchise that for-profit model everywhere else. Because you should never rely on someone else to put food on your plate. And that's why I don't like nonprofits. Hopefully you have no nonprofit sponsors, because do not, I'm kidding. No, but it's like,
yeah, so I founded a nonprofit.
Let me just scratch that up right there.
No, but I understand what you're saying, right? Like, there is a common issue, not with the Muslim community, but also more specifically with nonprofits in general, of like, how do we actually make a sustainable organization?
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of ways to do that. Like, there's definitely a lot of great organizations that are trying to implement those for the long term. But, you know, I'm really curious to hear about, like, I think taking like some of these concepts and then finding sustainable ways of these really known issues are what we should be doing with our wealth, or what we should be doing with that Maslow hierarchy of need that you explained, right? We don't, like, as a society. But like, can you expand into this? Like, I don't know if you've done more thought on it or anything, or if you have like something to share, but I think it's really interesting of how you would operationalize a problem like that, and how you can, measure and provide impact into a potential solution for something like that.
Yeah, I mean, basically I've done research for almost a decade at this point regarding what I can do and how I can build this. The easiest way of explaining it is I want to be able to pick up the phone, call 20 people, and raise like $30-40 million, and just put it all into like a waqf type of system that allows us to create continuous income for solving these issues. But specifically for this orphan project itself, what we want to do is increase the age-out age from 18 to 25 at every place, provide a proper education boarding school system that allows these kids to get education, and then not only just education, but connections to all my friends in the West. And what that really means is a lot of my friends in the West have really cool companies, which means they can hire them, they can work in different areas, they can research, they can sponsor their education in universities and so on from there. So by the time they turn 25 and they're still in an orphan system, they've got years of experience, so much value to the West, where if they once they age out and get thrown to the street, they're going to get picked up like this instantly. And as long as we continue to have contracts and reasons for them to come back to my friends' companies and come back to the local area, where they can start building out coffee shops, they can start building out apartment complexes, they can start building out things with their own investment in their local areas, you start building up the local economy. Because the goal is not to just take the kid, provide so much for him, and then kick him out and then send him out to like the West, where he provides no value back to the people that, you know, he was raised around. Because like creating things like that, you have sustainable farms, you sustainable like coffee shops, franchises, whatever it is, and you create the local economy in different areas. And eventually that keeps funding itself, and you can fund out and expand like miniature orphan cities in a sense. But ideally people come in and help out as much as they can.
So it's really taking the concept of like a very powerful network and then providing like a sustainable like pipeline all the way through to where it flows into like a flourishing economy. I'm sure there's been a lot of people that have tried to tackle it in this way. What do you think the biggest reasons are for why this is not something like this hasn't been implemented over like the last 100 years?
Corruption, and then technology. With technology, so you go back 50 years, 100 years, you didn't have the power to connect people around the world. Mm-hmm. Look at us, like, what are the odds that we're hanging out in Dallas right now? Like, realistically, I'm in California, you're in Dallas. We probably would normally, without technology, without this idea of traveling, social media that would have brought Dallas's Muslim scene to become what it was, I wouldn't have come to Dallas. I would never have met you. And, 50 years ago, definitely wouldn't be showing up to Dallas. I'd be, if I'm going on a flight, I'm going to Mecca, Medina type of thing. Like, that's the thing. But now it's like, dude, we're phone call away, Snapchat away, small text away from anything. This connection of this network in the West, like, think about it. Like, with BoyCat, and we'll get into the story later, because I still need to touch upon leadership in MSA. But after that, we'll go to BoyCat. But it's, now you have hubs in the US, UK, North Africa, Middle East, Gulf, Southeast Asia, Japan, Australia type of thing. Like, there are hubs of people that all care about the BoyCat mission. And they're all people around the entire globe that I snap my finger, I can reach out to all of them. I can ask them a question, like 90% of them will answer type of thing. I can connect them to anyone I want. If they have a problem, I connect them to someone else I want. And with technology, you can do so many cool things with it. And I think the other part is, like, it's just never been a priority. Like, I think as Muslims, even with how we donate, it's just give the person a fish, don't teach them how to fish. That's just how it has been for centuries, decades, whatever. We never solved the root infrastructure issue. We always solved the immediate issue right off the bat. Like, more people are willing to give to someone that, like, give a free plate of food to some person in need versus let's go build a kitchen that can provide food for people forever type of thing. Like, that's just the mentality we have, and we need to solve that.
There's a lot that you unpacked that I kind of want to comment on and talk more about. One thing that I really think that I've had a recent realization, it was that of superheroes, right? They're so heavily propagated in the West, right? I mean, the U.S. literally spends within its own defense budget and marketing for Marvel films and things like that. And one thing when it comes to superheroes, it's when you look at it, right? It's always something you're born with. You're born into wealth, or you're just given this power by the universe, and that was it. And I'm an anime guy. And so when you watch anime, the Eastern idea of becoming a hero is being like improving your own self, whether it be One Piece, whether it be Naruto, whether it be Eren Yeager, or from Attack on Titan. All animes from mostly Eastern, there's this element of working really hard even when you have a disadvantage. And then because of that, you can achieve it. And I think when you're having this realization, you're kind of trying to figure out what is your mission, not the mission that you're born with, but what is the mission that is around you that is meaningful. And you kind of start hearing whisperings of it, whether it be in Islam in itself and how the importance of orphanage, your mother hinting you towards it, right? I think that's when you start realizing what is your hero's path. And then becomes the second mission, which is the doing. How do I achieve that? And that is the process of discovering and figuring out. It was never handed to you in a silver platter, like, here's the wealth, here's the ability, go do it. But you kind of had to go through this process of unraveling and finding out that hero's journey. So I think with all that being said, you're very much a hero with like what you're achieving, and you're very much on that hero's path. And I think that that's something I really wanted to commend and highlight. I think the question that you had on, or the point that you were saying, why it hasn't been done. My uncle in Bangladesh, he like quit his corporate life, and he's like, man's old. He's like 65 plus. And so, in Desi mindset, that's old, right? And so he quit corporate, all that in Bangladesh, and focuses purely on like building up orphanages. And when I was young, I like worked with him through like my local Rotary Club. And one of the things that I kind of noticed, one was that in those spaces, at least in Southeast Asia or South Asia, is that kids are a form of income, right? And so even when kids weren't orphaned, they had almost the same needs as an orphan needed, because they just weren't getting the appropriate care. And so, in terms of figuring out these problems, one thing that we realized, like, we literally have to pay the parents money to let their kids come to school and have, full meals and things like that. And that's allowed them to get the education to then help the local economy find better jobs, and building. I think one thing of like corruption is definitely one element, but one thing that I think is really important, and I don't know if it's a Western mind, well, I know it is from a Western mindset, but I don't know if it also exists there to a degree, is that when we see a homeless person or when we see someone who's in need, we're purely focused on solving it immediately. So it's not a discomfort for us, because I think it's so much of a mirror of society on how much you're failing to help your fellow person. And so it's like, oh, I don't want to, if a homeless person is coming to you, it's not about like just giving them money. You're just trying to like end the engagement and so you can move on. My question to you is, how do you help people recognize that when solving these problems, it's not about immediately solving it, but really that we're building the foundation layer. So in 10 years, it never becomes a problem, right? Is that something you're experiencing as kind of you're looking through, this journey of, making this more of your mission?
I think the answer to that, and the easiest answer to that, is why. And then if you can answer the why, go a deeper level and go again. And until you can't answer the why anymore, and that's the problem you have to solve. And I think that's the only way we can get people to really understand like the severity of different issues and like what's actually happening. You don't go down the street, see a homeless guy on drugs for fun. Like he's not doing that for fun. You gotta answer the why. Like what put him there? How do you get there? How can we potentially solve that issue before? And then you won't ever see him again. If you don't like him on the street, then solve the issue that's putting him on the street in the first place. But I also think people are very self-centered, right? It's just like, I just want to feel good as fast as I can, instant gratification. Don't want to put any extra work than I have to. And that's all I need to do.
Yeah, I think there's this concept, like I think it was from Toyota, actually. It's like the 5 whys. Like you just ask why, like why, they give an answer. Okay, why? And then eventually you get to the most derivatives and it's like, that's what it is. That's what we need to solve. Now, in terms of like solving problems, right? What was like your first venture into like the business realm and things like that? Like were you always like this person like looking at problems and like?
I was gonna say I think it was MSA.
We'll get to the MSA. MSA is like 5 years after I started my first business.
5 years.
So I was 13 when I started my first one.
Oh wow!
Oh wow! Okay.
What was that?
It was a tutoring Monopoly ring. Like like my friends and I were a little bit ahead of it.
Monopoly ring.
We had Monopoly in the entire city on tutoring.
Okay, got it. Not Monopoly, the board game.
No,
Okay. Sorry, that's where my mind. Okay.
I kind of wish we had Monopoly money at this point, but still. The reality was like, there's a couple of us really good academics. I was like, Jack Ma said this really well. He was like, I'm not the smartest person in the room, but I'm really good at bringing the right people in the room together. Mm-hmm. And then that was me. I was never like top 0.001%. It was always like, I had a knack of picking at the right people and putting them together and be like, we can do something cool. And making them do all the work. And then I would get the good grade as well. And so I took all the best kids, basically created a tutoring ring where we marketed to a bunch of all the other kids. And, since we lived in a university town at the time, all those professors, kids, had to be top of the grade or they'd get like beaten at home. And so what we did was make sure they wouldn't get beaten. Like that was our selling point, right? And so we created a ring. We were making $3-4K a month basically just off that. And I was like, I always make $3-4K. Okay. I can't disclose their small paychecks though.
As a 13-year-old.
Yeah. I felt like I was a millionaire at that point. I was chilling.
I mean, you might as well have been if you're 13.
Well, yeah.
Dude, yeah, no bills. I was
and no taxes either.
No taxes.
Yeah.
IRS knows nothing.
It's past the year, so I think we're good.
And so like that was a big thing. And then I was like, this is really cool. You make money doing stuff on the weekend. I was like, I want to make money every day. And so, a year and a half later, I ended up going into media a little bit, got my first camera, started figuring out that Gymshark was starting to pop off. Alphalete was starting very, very early on. And I was like, lifestyle, gym, they're onto something here. And so media, and I was like, media seems to be selling their product. It's not like the actual product itself, because at the end of the day, there's only so many factories in China they can actually make their product from. It's going to be the same at some point. What is actually selling someone the product? And it's the brand and it's the image. And I started realizing that at 14 or 15. And I started a media thing where I was starting to take photos and videos and help my friends' brands that were trying to start things, like just start off in the beginning. They all sucked, but I mean, it was a start. Then I started my own clothing line marketing thing from there. And basically finished school, high school, and then went to college, and that's when MSA happened.
Oh, wow. What did you have a lot of like options for university, or did you like what was the culture around like university within your family? It was like you have to go to like certain school or certain profession.
My brother's a doctor, so alhamdulillah, I did.
Oh, bless him, man.
Like
Older?
the man took the fall for me. Yeah. Like literally, because my parents were strict on it, and for me, they were like, "Oh, he's rebellious. Like, go study medicine." And I was like, "No." It's like, God, no, there's no way, right? Like I hated school, dude. Like school was useless to me. I was like, I'm making money. I don't need to go to school. Like school is all for nerds and stuff like that. And like at a point in time, I was like, if I want to become a doctor, I'm going to become a neurosurgeon because neurosurgeons make a ton of money. And they're also the coolest one. And then Grey's Anatomy came out, and then there was like the main character was like a neurosurgeon. I was like, that's me, right? Main character, hero complex, all this arrogance and stuff. And how about like right on college is when I fueled out all like the arrogance. I was like, whatever, all at once. But long story short, I kind of deal with my parents that if I finish college early, I can do whatever I want between the time I finish and the time the average person graduates, 22, 23. If I fail, I'll go to med school, and that satisfies their dreams of having a doctor or second son. If not, then I succeed, then I can go and make money and do more than a doctor can. I finished college quite early, and I had three and a half years before everyone else caught up, and then just taught myself product management, data science, and kept going in that direction. So my decision for college was simply who's going to let me graduate the soonest. Like there is a couple options in California. You have Stanford, UCLA, USC, like the big names that most people know about. But all the schools were like, you have to be here for 3 years at least. And I was like, heck no. If I can leave earlier, I'm going to leave earlier. So I found Davis, and Davis was allowing me to take different classes with them and like the community college system around them at the same time, as long as they didn't offer the course at the time at Davis. And so I managed to finesse my way through, double up on units, finished up in like 2 years basically. Wow. Hated school, hated my degree. Don't remember a thing. Don't ask me anything about neurobiology. Like I'm the worst biology student you know. But,
so you still did pre-med?
I did pre-med. I was like, if I fail, I got to go. I mean, I got to fulfill my promise.
And how did you get sharpened on like all this computer stuff? Was it just on the side?
YouTube.
YouTube. So you're just, but were these like side quests that you were doing while, because I mean, it sounds like your hours are like 18-hour semesters or 20-hour plus.
Yeah,
no?
I mean, I don't know how they translate, but we had quarter system, and I was doing like 26, 27 units per quarter.
Would you say that was kind of like, are you able to pick things up a little bit faster, at least on the tech side of things?
I mean, I think I pick things up in general pretty quickly. So if I see someone do something once, I kind of nail it from there. And it really helped. Like obviously, you can see that with like memorization for the Quran and stuff. Right. You can start seeing it with like sports. Like Derrick Rose, my favorite player growing up, loved him, Chicago Bulls. Watched him play basketball, and I started copying his moves like the next day basically, and like that was just like how I learned. And if there was someone that could do something that I couldn't, I'd watch him enough times until I could do it. Like that's how it was, until it was a physical limitation on certain things, right? But even with that, I was like, alhamdulillah, my mom's super athletic, so I got all the genes from her, and so I could do most of the athletic things that you can think about. So
that's awesome.
I picked it up from her for sure.
What was your relationship with your brother like growing up? Was that because obviously he went to the medicine route, and you self-identified by your family being more rebellious? Did you guys always have like a really healthy relationship? Like, what was his advice when you're kind of striving towards like, I want to do 2 years and dip, and then like? Yeah,
it was ups and downs. I mean, he followed the path. He was a good kid. He was a favorite child, that type of thing. Like he was babied. He was the first child as well. I was like he'll figure it out. He's very independent. He can do everything like that. We had a very good relationship growing up. And then in my middle school, high school years, I kind of like was annoying, like almost every younger sibling. And then I finally picked it up once I got to college, where I was like, I'm so stupid. And then kept going, But it's just like the idea, like I'm so cool. I can do this. I can do whatever. And so we didn't have a great relationship during that time, but it got a lot better once I started college. I can't speak for other people's relationships, but right. I think that seems to be a pretty common pattern, that once you have distance, siblings grow fonder.
Yeah, once you have distance, all your younger brothers realize a self-actualization. How awesome the old brothers are.
I was always in his shadow, right? So I was always like, oh, you didn't go to med school, you didn't go do this, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay, he's top of the class. All right, cool, nerd. Like, that's what it was. Like, but yeah, what you were saying?
No, I was gonna say. So was it just y'all two? Do you have any other brothers?
It's just
or
us two,
sisters?
yeah.
Okay.
So we had a very small family. All our families just us four in the U.S. Everyone else is overseas, alhamdulillah. So that meant like we had to stick together. Like there was no one else, basically.
Do you, I guess with your family now that you've, med school never happened, are your parents like totally, I guess, were they chill about it immediately, or did it take some time, within your, I guess, progression in success beyond med school? Did they kind of come around to it, or was it just
no? My mom wanted to beat me when she found out I was going to skip med school, type of thing.
Yeah,
like it was bad. No hate to my mom. If you're watching this, I'm so sorry. But nah, she was not a fan. Like that was it. My dad was a little bit more. He was like, I see something in this kid. Like let him try at least. And because I was able to cut a deal where I was like, if I fail, I'll go. Like just let me try. They were more okay with it. And now if I was to redo it at this point in time, they'd be 100% down for it, type of thing. Just because they see what's going on around the world. They see how garbage the public education system is and stuff like that. But let me answer the MSA question because it's bothering me. I was just arrogant. I thought I could change the entire system. I thought that a fresh eyes and like brand new kid that has some business experience can come in and run it like a business. But you should never give power to 18-year-olds, especially amongst other Muslims and being responsible for other people's Islam. I thought it was really, looking back, it's such a dangerous thing to do because our administration, there was a bunch of people from my high school that were Muslim by name and they were on the fence about Islam as a whole. And they were driven away because the culture that the organization I was part of really created was like be elite. Like unless you're praying 5 times a day, go to the masjid 5 times a day, you're not part of the MSA. Like that was like really driven.
Because you're some game.
Yeah, it was like either you're part of it or you're not. Like that's it. There's no inclusion. There's no like don't worry about it if you're like if you pray 3 times a day, too bad. Realistically, as long as they want to pray and like they're praying a little bit, like bring them in, like move on to your side of the fence. And we just didn't have that. And I was like, that's the result of having 18, 19-year-olds running the entire thing without any guidance, without anything. Because you think about it, it's a bunch of sheltered kids that probably were never allowed to leave their house past sundown. Now finally getting to college, unlimited freedom, thinking they know what to do with the world, being put into power. Running, and our estimate is huge. We had like 300, 400, 500 people. And I was like, we're responsible for these people. And that's why I left. And then we got raided.
So I guess, hindsight now, right, if you had to give some advice for MSA boards, throughout the country, like what would you, with some newfound wisdom now, like what do you think would be able to help these younger leaders on being able to shift it in the right direction?
Humble yourself is a huge thing. I think you have to realize that you're not a leader, you're a servant. And that's like it's really easy to say, but it's really hard to internalize properly because everyone has a little bit of ego that you just have to let go at some point. And we can finally understand that whatever Allah wants is going to happen. You're just the means for something to happen in case He wants it to happen. And if He doesn't like you and you're a bad leader or a bad part of the means, it's like, get rid of you, get someone better than you. And that's the reality of how it goes. And so I think that's a big piece of advice. The second piece, and honestly what I would really like everyone to do in general, just like get up for tahajjud. Like how are you expected to lead an entire population of students and peers if you can't wake up in the middle of the night and talk to God about it? Like my favorite line that I use everywhere is literally like, if you're not waking up for tahajjud for what you're building the wrong thing. Because it means you don't want it enough. You don't want to talk to God about it in the most critical moment where no matter what dua you make is answered. If you can't get up earlier than everyone else, be disciplined enough every single day to do it, you don't want it bad enough. And if you don't want to be a leader enough, then you're not going to be a good leader. And I found like the best leaders are never the ones that want to do it right away. They're the ones that end up getting chosen and Allah puts them in that position. Like with BoyCat and stuff, we'll get into it in a bit, but I don't want this. I don't want the fame. I don't want the death threats. If I could have a ranch in New Zealand in a corner, I'm gone. Leave me alone. Don't even have Wi-Fi on that thing. But like, I know I'm a means for something, and we'll get to that point. Until then, inshallah.
So I guess now, when was after the tutoring, was BoyCat the next venture that you're eyeing at, or
tutoring, media, clothing, and then I went into school, and then after school I had a startup, my first official tech startup. That taught me about product completely. So it was a product management company, and what we did was we took people's problems and solved them. And that sounds like
that's very broad.
That sounds like a great consultant pitch.
Yeah, exactly. Take people right. So there's an output approach and an outcome approach in how you do things. An output approach means you just do something and you hope things work.
And this is when, like 2016 right now, or
2018, 2019, 2020.
Okay.
Right around there.
Gotcha. So right before COVID almost.
Yeah, like right before COVID into COVID type of thing. Yeah. And basically what happened was, if you have a problem and you're like, go solve it by building this, that's an output approach.
Okay.
Because you're telling me to go build something for you, and just you already have the solution.
Right.
But you don't know if it's going to work. You just have a solution. The thing is, if you build something and no one uses it, you didn't do anything important. An outcome approach takes the problem and solution aspect. So it's like, if you give me a problem, I can go solve it, and that problem will be solved for hundreds of thousands, millions of people. I'm actually doing something important. And so I took that approach when building product as a whole, because it was really important that you solve a problem and you don't just build something. Mm-hmm. We did pretty well. I basically exited a couple years later because my co-founder left and I didn't want to do it anymore. I could go from 0 to 1, but I couldn't go from 1 to 1,000. So I went to big tech. Yeah, that was my life for a year and a half. Like, basically how I found out that was happening was, when it all happened, like last year. It was last year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. My LinkedIn was blowing up, and I was like, "Oh my God, BoyCat's finally getting on the news!" Like,
the FBI is always falling behind.
I was like so excited because Reuters and like a bunch of other like networks were like, "Hey, can we get an interview? Can you get an interview?" And I didn't read like the expanded message, just the earlier. I was like, "Dude, Alhamdulillah, BoyCat's taking off. Like, I'm killing it." I opened the message just like, "Hey, we saw you work with Luigi. Do you want to make a claim about it?" I'm like, "Bro, no one cares about me. They only care about Luigi." So that's how I found out about it. I was like, whoa, that's crazy.
That is insane. So you had a startup and you said you exited.
Yeah.
What was, are you able to disclose how much that exit was?
It wasn't a lot. Cause it wasn't like we had a product that we built. It was more like a service flow that we had, and we were able to sell the service flow away.
Well, I guess at that age, how old are you now? Like 23 or
21?
21.
Yeah.
Getting that check, like how did that feel? Like, I mean, I assume
Tax. I was like, taxes. Like,
I
gotta figure out how to not do this.
Straight to Israel.
I was like, man, I just killed a kid.
That's valid. That's valid. But was how was your family feeling? Like, how were you feeling? Because I feel like, I mean, regardless of the amount it must feel like a win, I would imagine, right?
It more so just proved that I could do something. But for them, it was like, I don't know if I even told them everything about it. I just like, I just finished this company. I'm going to a different company. And like, that was it. So yeah, I mean, it wasn't a big deal. Even for me, it was like, I knew I didn't achieve my goal, like of a huge exit where I can call those people, raise that 30 million for this project. So I was like, on to the next. And like, I was like, I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna get there. So yeah, big tech was really important for me. And then after that, went to a new company at 2023. And then that's when October happened and life changed like that.
And so was that, working did you go back into corporate, I assume, or in between after you exited?
Yeah. So it was big tech.
Yeah.
And then another big unicorn startup. And then I had my own thing right after that.
Was it easy transitioning back, going from like a leadership role, something that
I
you
hated it.
You
I hated being told what to do. I genuinely hate being told what to do. Because I'm like, I can do it better than you. Why are you telling me what to do? And I was like, I'm already going to do it. So why are you telling me to do it? It's like you're already planning on taking out the trash and someone's like, go take out the trash.
Oh,
it's like, no, don't do that.
Like,
stop.
Okay, Mom.
Not anymore. I don't want to do it anymore. You take out the trash. Like, that's how it was, right? Or like, they'd be like, oh, go change the color of this button for an A/B test because the color of the button is going to change how much millions of dollars you make. I'm like, that's so stupid. Like, make a better experience. Get a better product. Your product sucks.
Yeah.
Build a better product. That's why your stock is crashing. And it's like, it's not because of the color of the button. Don't tell me to change the color of the button. But I was like, I lived with it. It was a steady paycheck. It allowed me to like breathe because I've been on the go since I was younger, from like that 13 point to like the 21 point where I was just like, my mom was excited to see me sleep. Like, that's how it was, right?
So I mean, that's kind of important, right? So like in terms sleep. No, but I can
30-minute break, right?
No, but in general, like this you're go. You're always on the move. You're always like challenging yourself. You have high expectations of like what you expect. You're like, even though a lot of people would consider what you've done success at this point, you're still like, this is not enough. I think that's a common characteristic from almost every single founder or anyone that's even tried to attempt this entrepreneurial journey. But you at one point made this decision to be like, okay, I need a steady paycheck. I'm going to sleep. I'm going to do these things. Like, did you see that as like a failure at this moment, or were you just like, hey, like what was like the quantifiable value of like that time period for you? Did it give you like the time to be able to step back and think about the next thing that you wanted to do?
I think it reminded me at that moment in time that everything I was doing until that point wasn't getting me close to my goal. Like I was still at 0 out of 20 people I could call for getting those millions of dollars for that orphan project. And I was like, I feel like I just gotta slow down a bit, think about it, and then reposition myself and just move forward again. Because I felt like I was just heads down running and like I lost track of the direction. If you ever try this, actually close your eyes and start walking in a straight line. You never walk in a straight line. You end up going in a random direction.
It's surprising to say that I do that literally, I'm not kidding, every morning. I go on my morning walk, and my goal is to see how far I can go every time. Not that far.
You know what's really trippy?
Touch the grass pretty quickly.
If you jump rope and close your eyes, you'll end up in a completely different spot.
That sounds terrifying.
And it's insane, right? So closing your eyes and jumping up and down, we think it's straight up and down, but you actually start moving in a direction, and it's crazy to think about. And I think it's important to stop at certain moments, stop and smell the roses, but literally just like reposition and then move in a direction and see where like Allah wants you to go. Like follow the breadcrumbs realistically. Like you may think you have to go in a certain direction, and you may be thinking you're going that direction, but the breadcrumbs are on your left and you got to go left or right type of thing.
I mean, I think it's really good advice, because I think in a world of go, like go isn't always progression. And I think one of the things that I always like to, it's from the Seven Samurai. It's a book on like Japanese philosophy, and is essentially how sometimes to go forward you need to go backwards. And the analogy that they usually give is like it's like drawing an arrow, right? Yeah. When you pull the string back, yes, you're going negative, but it's giving you the force and the propelling to go even further if you were just going small bits at a time. And so I think when you take that moment to pause, look at your surroundings, you get a realignment, then you can step forward and go with your day. And I think sometimes like even being Muslim is such a cheat code, because like when you're praying 5 times a day, those are moments to stop, reset, realign your true intention as to why you're here, and then you can kind of build off from there, right? Versus just constantly going. And you know, also growing up, and even now, sometimes I delay salah, the thought of, oh, I need to get this done now, but really taking that pause is almost 100% of the time is always way more beneficial. So you mentioned that, you know, you're going through corporate, and you're going into now, you know, after Al-Aqsa flood, October 7th happens. What was going through your mind, you know, when that was happening? You know, I mean, I think for us, all of us growing up in the West, we've went through the horrors of what happened in Iraq. We've seen the horrors of what happened in Afghanistan. We've seen, I mean, through and through, right, of what's happened to West Asia and so much of the Muslim world. And now we're all of age to have some tools in our arsenal to make an impact, right? Whether it be boycotting, whether it be creating tools that you've created. What was going through your mind in that moment? Was it immediately like, I'm quitting right now and building, or something, you know, else to kind of finally kick you over?
I hated politics and social justice. Like, you won't catch me anywhere near it. I still hate it, but somehow I'm the face of one of the major movements at this point, which is kind of funny.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Hopefully not for long. But that's not an invitation to kill me.
I'm so surprised to hear that statement, though. So, like, maybe define like what you mean by it, like social, like why you hate social work or
social justice.
Social justice.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, social
work.
I was like,
orphanages.
I hate it. I was like, so I built a business around it.
Social justice didn't make sense to me. Politics didn't make sense to me. I was like,
well, can you define social justice? Like, what does that mean? Like,
what's the examples coming to your head?
The immediate examples are like things like protests and email. Like, they're essential.
Yeah.
But I thought they were useless. Like, they never achieved anything at the end of the day. Like, you never actually had someone after seeing a protest like at Sacramento or something be like, oh yeah, we saw 150 people have signs outside. We're going to go make this law because of that. No one cares.
I think it's one of the things like what we see now as protests or parades, right? When we look at actual protests were a sense of like a threat to the government that things were about to happen. So when we look at the civil rights movement with MLK or John Lewis, like those were genuine protests because they were destroying property, right? It is telling the government that like you are failing us, so we're going to fail our role as a citizen now by causing destruction.
Yeah.
Boston Tea Party, all these things.
The Montgomery boycotts and stuff.
Yeah, like those are actual protests. What we see are, yes, they do have a role. It's like you have allyship, you know those people exist, but they're more aligned with the parade than a true definition of a protest.
And like you said, it's more about the allyship. Like right now in this room, if I said free Palestine, we already all care about Palestine. I'm not changing the world. Like it's more important that I say this out in a room full of people that probably don't agree with me, because then I can understand them, have a conversation with them, and change their mind. It's not about that I need to feel good about myself that I'm staying on the right side with all you guys. Like it doesn't matter. It's not changing anything. Which is why I think people keep saying we need our own social media. We need all this. It's like, no, you don't. You don't need an echo chamber where everyone's glazing each other for no reason. Like, get off your knees for each other. Like, that's what it is, right? like literally, like, you have to go and be, like, talking to every single person. Like, maybe you convince 5 people out of 1 million. Like, that's 5 more people that you didn't have in the past. That's important. But this entire thing with boycotts and what happened in October, I was like, all right, Israel does this for 2 weeks. That's normally what happens. They do it every Ramadan, like when people are fasting. There's literally documents that say like, this is the moment in time they're the weakest. They are sleep deprived. They're doing things. Go attack them.
It's the regular mowing the grass.
Yeah,
term, right?
just go at them type of thing, right? But for us, I was like, all right, cool. Day after day after day after day. I'm like, all right, thinking. And at this point in time, like alhamdulillah, tahajjud is like really important in my life, and like it still is. And I never sleep after tahajjud. Like that's my thing. For some reason, dude, like maybe one of my friends kept me up playing a video game or something like that. I knocked out. I was gone. And it was really important because I had a dream that day where I was dreaming about this entire thing about Starbucks and like this guy boycotting. And like, I was like, well, it's such a stupid dream. And I woke up, but then I went back to sleep and I had this like weird state where I was like looking at the next 5, 6, 7 years of my life. And I was like, that's not the direction I can go with where I'm at. And so I woke up and I was like, I got to do something. I literally texted my boy. I was like, we need to do something. And I was trying to solve this question of like, why do I hate social justice so much? Like, why don't petitions working? Why aren't protests working? Why aren't these legislations working? Like, you have these lawyers that try to sue like ex-IOF soldiers and stuff like that, right? It's like, why aren't they doing anything? Like, why are the courts able to dismiss things? And why do corporations still send money? Why does the Versailles CEO feel like he can still take selfies with Netanyahu for fun, knowing exactly what's happening and not face any repercussions? Like, why does that make sense? And I basically realized, like, we're speaking a different language. Like, we're yelling at them in words, in English and in French and Arabic, whatever. They only spoke the language of money. And so if you control the money, you can control how you have a voice. And I woke up and I knew exactly what to do, like exactly what I need to do. I was like, 1, we need to teach people how to speak the same language of them, speak the language of money, unite them, and then create a digital country. That's literally how it was. It's like that massive, exponential type of thing. I was like, if we can do that, then you can change the world. Because imagine, you've probably heard me say this multiple times, but imagine if you had 30, 40, 50 million people that care about Philistine. You could ethically blackmail any corporation, anything, and be like, look, we can take away hundreds of millions of dollars to spend every month from your organization if you don't support Philistine. If you support us, we'll drive that money to you. Like, that's the language you speak. Because the reality is, like, look, 5% of people care about Philistine. 5% of people hate you no matter what. You're never going to switch either side. But can you get the average dude walking down the street to join your side? And that's what you need to do. And that's kind of how we positioned BoyCat as a whole. But I was like, all right, let's solve this problem of, realizing all this one stuff. And then what can happen is you can create this alternative economy because you start saying, avoid this, buy these really cool things like avoid Versailles, get Replit instead. This isn't sponsored by Replit yet.
Not yet.
Inshallah soon. Make dua, everyone.
Tahajjud.
And literally wake up for Tahajjud every night for this sponsorship. It's like things like that. It's like, don't use ExpressVPN, don't use NordVPN, like use BoyCat VPN, shameless plug.
Link in the description, actually.
For 1 month or 2 months free. It's like things like that. It's like you can start pushing up the most ethical, most halal, most clean alternatives to the top, and in a sense create a Muslim-reliant alternative economy. But I don't like the word alternative because I want to become the mainstream. Like, we need to create the products that are going to become we don't need more Muslims building Muslim products. We need more Muslims building products as Muslims. And there's a huge difference. I don't know how many prayer apps you have on your phone, but we don't need 50,000 on the App Store. We don't need more Quran apps. We have some really good. Tartil, go get it. Like, that's great. Pillars, go for it. Muslim Pro, there's some controversy there, but I looked at the documents when I was in Singapore on February. It wasn't that bad. Like everyone sells ad ID anyway, so it's like there's misinformation out there. All this, realistically, you have options. Why do we need more of that? Go build the Vercels, go build the Stripes, go build the Visas, go build the PayPal, like build the infrastructure level stuff. And I realized at that moment, we're shifting from the individual building mindset to community building mindset, and they're already at the infrastructure mindset. And so we're slowly transitioning at that point in time in early October. And so I want to solve the problem with BoyCat, just the fun, learn how to boycott, find the alternative, and like provide information and create the movement. After you create the movement, create the alternative system. After you create the alternative system, just change behavior through incentivizing, partnering, and so on from there. And then you solve the economy problem. Because if you control media, economy, education, you control the world. That's the reality. Our cousins control everything, 100%. Like we see them. They bought out TikTok recently, CBS, HBO, all those things. They have a bunch of ex-IDF soldiers, sympathizers, Unit 200 people. They all run it because they know that media is so important. And they already control a lot of the economy aspect. They control the trading routes. They control who can do trade with what, blah, blah. They own all the cybersecurity data infrastructure. It's super important because privacy matters, but they own everything. I actually learned this after a conversation with my friends. He works in the Middle East now, and what they do is they basically set up cell phone providers and services in different Gulf countries from the West. And what's really interesting, AT&T, T-Mobile, Sprint, all those things that happen exist here. They all use the same software that controls users' information when you sign up. So like your social security, your call logs, and basic information. There's only 3 of them in the world. 3 major companies that run everything. And they own 90% of the market, like 90-95% market. And where are they based out of? Tel Aviv. So every single time you sign up for a phone plan, it doesn't matter what country you're in around the world, all the information first goes to Tel Aviv, where they can see everything, and then it goes back to you. So all your call logs, all your texts, everything you do, anytime you sign up your social security, they have all the information, and that's key. And the last part is education, which they've done already, right? They would create a system where you basically need a dual income household, where you need all this stuff where the kids are now in their own systems, they're being educated through them. History books, if you look into it more, if you go into the conspiracy theories, like who wrote the history books, it's like you start diving into the why, right? It's like the why, how, who did it, and you start going back further enough, you start basically seeing like they built infrastructure 100 years before us. It's not that Muslims are dumb or the clean mindset's dumb, because there are a lot of non-Muslims that are on our side, and that's great. We need that, but it's like we're not dumb. We're just 100 years behind them. And the power of technology is that you can leapfrog and catch up on the years that you lost, basically. Because we would be having this conversation 5 years ago, but now we are, which is crazy to think about. In October, that's basically what happened. In November, I was teaching myself how to code because GPT came out, and I was really understanding how to use it. Built an app in December, launched it in January, and I got my friends involved to start. It went viral, alhamdulillah, right away. Scan a barcode, search up brands, whatever it is, and then you could get information on it. And then after that, what we did was start attacking the different needs, like where instead of just what. What can you buy instead? And then, people will shop online a lot, build an extension, go in that direction. I'm fast forwarding through the story because a little bit is boring and it's been said before, but it was on the news quite a bit. Al Jazeera was the biggest outlet at the time, Turkish Anadolu, Malaysia, and eventually The Guardian hit me up and some other places. We have, articles everywhere. And unfortunately, those articles and videos got sent to my work group chats. I can call their name out. It's been 2 years. Linktree. So I was at Linktree at the time, and then they ended up finding out that I was working there. Our CTO does not like Muslims. Literally, one guy was at a dinner with the CTO. He was wearing a Free Palestine shirt after October happened. And she just sat down at the table and she's like, about Jewish history is really interesting. And she has I read this book on Jewish history. And the guy was like, dude, it says Free Palestine. What do you want? And then our VP's last name is Cohen. And I was like, I'm cooked. Can't do anything about that. So I did what any other Gen Z kid would do. I tweeted. I was like, LOL, got fired for building BoyCat. That's what it was. It went viral and I went to bed. Alhamdulillah, I was just playing istikhara trying to figure out what I want to do. And I basically realized at that moment in time, I woke up with 30 job offers across the US, UK, Middle East. But Allah was giving me a way out in case I wanted to get out and take a safe route and be safe. But at the same time, I knew that they wouldn't have fired me, and I knew I'm on a certain path of like economic change to an extent. And Surah Yusuf has been really, really big for me in the past couple of years. Like, it's my favorite surah, obviously, but it's like something I studied like religiously. And in Ayah 55, right after he gets out of jail, he's like, put me in charge of the treasury because I'm knowledgeable and trustworthy. And you have to think about it. In a room full of ministers, the king, everything, some kid in rags straight out of jail is like, let me run your entire economy because I'm going to be the best one to do it, right? Not out of arrogance, but humbleness, because he acknowledges the gifts that Allah gave him. That was the beauty. I acknowledge that I'm going to be paving a road for this to change the economy because I knew that we had to do it. I'm not going to be, probably not going to be the one that has to lead it at the end of the day. As long as I'm paving the road, if Allah wants me to lead it, I'll lead it. If not, I'll lead it. I'll pave the road for the actual dude to run it. That's what it is. And I just humble myself to the idea, like, whatever Allah wants, whatever the breadcrumb is move in that direction. And I was like, all right, building a company properly now. Start up, raise funds, build in that direction, all those fun things. It was really interesting. So I tried to raise funds, and then 99% of VCs are owned by them. I'm like, bro. The Muslim 1%, love you, support you, won't touch you. And I was like, dude, why is it so hard? Even now, we're only able to raise a couple 100,000. Like, most of them are non-Muslim investors. They're just like, don't care about the return. Just do what you need to do to do what you can with boycotts and alternative markets and stuff like that. We're like 2 million users, or 2 million users, 1 point something million users at the time. We've divested around like $20 million from the Israeli government at this point in time. Which, looking back, I'm like, that's a really small number. And at the time, but it was growth, right?
Well, if you didn't exist, it'd be 20 million more in their bags. So
100%. And so fast forward a little bit more, created a partnership with BDS, the official movement, because I knew we needed trust. And I was like, I have an entire business plan. We're going to go this way. And we're still going to raise money. We weren't able to. And what was really stupid was that there was this one Zionist I talked to in person. He was like, imagine if you were doing the opposite of what you're doing. You could go to a synagogue in New York and raise $25 million like this. And I was like, I can't even raise $25 in my local masjid. I was like, Muslims don't care about infrastructure. They only care about the immediate relief of like, oh, let me go. I'd rather give my $5 to the orphan in Gaza than give $5 to building infrastructure to prevent the orphan from happening. Like, that's what it was, right? And I was like, that's crazy. Like, what can I do? And so I was like, we just got to start building and build our own thing. And we're going to thug it out. So I used my own personal savings for the entire first year. Just watch it go from 6 figures down to 4 figures, giving out my money to my friends and business bills and whatever it can be, travels. And there was a moment in time in November where I was like, there's Boycott what I'm doing. Because what's really interesting, and you brought this up earlier, is that you can work 18 hours a day, but if you don't take that break, it's like, it's important for you to reset. But what's really cool is that with Islam, it's like this superpower. You don't need to put 18 hours straight into like working. You can put in those 10 hours, but if it's filled with barakah, you'll have just as much done as if you worked the 18 hours, right? As long as Allah is always first and always you take that approach of, I'm doing things to please Allah, I'm doing things for the right reasons, then there's going to be so much barakah in what you do. And it was proven to me. Like, me getting job offers after I got fired, that's crazy. Have you seen the market, dude? Like, no one's getting job offers. But even on top of that, it's like, I could not imagine a year before that I'd be traveling. I'd be on I was on 40 something flights in 2024. And this year I'm on like 60, 70 something so far this year. And like, I could not imagine that 2 years ago. It's like, there's barakah in it. It's like, how's my money still able to like still go in these places? Like, Allah's putting so much barakah in it. Cause it's for the right reasons and stuff, right? But specifically, I was in Doha and I had the opportunity to go to F1. My friends bought me F1 tickets to like the super nice fancy thing because they're all rich people for no reason. And they're like, we're going to go F1. We're going to go party with like some of the racers or whatever, like the Regal or something in Doha, like the main hotel. The other opportunity was I could spend money and go to Umrah for a day. And that's something I really wanted to do. Ended up doing that, coming back. And literally when I land, Imam Omar is like, hey, you want to get lunch with me? And I'm like, whoa. This is the guy I grew up watching. And then 2 days later, Sammy Hamdi texts me. He's like, hey, I'm in your town. Let's get lunch type of thing. And in that moment, I realized that the people I grew up watching are now contacts on my phone. The people I wanted to be a part of and learn from for years are now friends of mine that I can reach out to when I need something. And I was like, somehow like 2 years ago, not a chance. I would be like, yeah, maybe one day I'll see him, or if I go to Dallas for Ramadan once. And then it's like, no, not anymore. Now it's like I can go to Doha, like, dude, there was an aura moment this Ramadan, great, I'll never forget. I go to Valley Ranch, pray second row. Imam was there. I'm like, oh, cool. I'll probably see him afterwards, whatever. I look up as soon as he's by the side of his khatira, and he sees me. He steps over the first row to come say salam to me, before he's doing his mid level khatira, and then he says salam, and I'm like, oh my god. I'm like, everyone's looking at me. I'm like, I'm the person, dude. But then afterwards, it's crazier. So after we all finished, we're getting ready for QM and stuff. I go around. I'm like, all right, I just said salam to him. It's whatever. I talk to my homies, my friends, my brother, and stuff like that. And out of nowhere, I feel a tap on my shoulder. I look around. It's like, he's like, I heard you're in town for a couple more days. When are you free? Let's go hang out. I just see everyone around me, jaw on the floor. Like, who is this random kid that he wants to go hang out with him? Like, I was like, oh my god, my aura is at the roof right now. Like, I'm killing it. Alhamdulillah. And so like those moments, I'm like, dude, Allah's allowing me to have like the fun in the dunya too. You know, it's like, that's such a blessing. But I was like, I know I'm doing the right thing. I don't care about what I lose, whatever I'm missing out on, like all the opportunities, the friends I lose, whatever it is. Like there's barak in what I'm doing. So that's a huge thing. I don't know where I'm going with this rant, but I'm just yapping.
Well, I mean, I think the beauty in all this that we're kind of seeing consistently, right, is having tawakkul in Allah, right? Whenever something is being removed in your life, Allah's replacing it with something way better, beyond something what you could even recognize, right? Yeah. You went from 1 job to 30, right? You went from F1 to meeting a lot of your mentors and then your future mentors and friends and heroes that you've like looked up to, right? I think that is an incredible thing to experience. But I think the remarkable thing that I think we lose ground of is being cognizant of those blessings. And it seems like you're hyper cognizant of your blessings, even from the beginning of this conversation, right? Being able to argue with your parents is a blessing. That is high level like EQ, right? That takes a level of maturity to understand how even the negative, if when you take a step back, is actually a blessing, because the absence of that argument does not mean that the argument didn't exist, that maybe that person doesn't exist to even argue with. Right. Yeah. And I think that seems to be a very common mindset around that you have from a very early point of your life to now. And I think it really shows when it comes to building these things, you really constantly have to think big picture and need to constantly have a large trust on your why and the reasoning behind it. And that seems to be like a core point to it. You know, sometimes people say, you know, it's not the best to meet your heroes. Did you ever have a moment like that now that you've kind of going into this different round table in your life? Has there, and you don't have to call them out unless you feel comfortable doing so. We've been calling a lot of people, but like I'm curious if that's something you've experienced yet, because you are going into a lot of, you know, bigger rooms and bigger spaces.
I think the thing with heroes and having heroes growing up was that I never idolized anyone. I knew that at the end of the day, they were human. And I realized that early on with my parents. I'm like, every kid grows up thinking my parents can do anything in the world. They're the best solvers, everything. And you slowly realize when you're a teenager, like, this is their first time living life too, man. Like, they don't know how to raise a teenager. They've never had to deal with someone so annoying in their life. And like, they didn't get to, like, normally you could just leave, but now you can't leave a kid alone. It's like those moments where you realize like the first people you ever idolized were your parents. And it broke. And for me, growing up, ever since then, I was like, no one's better than my parents anyway. So it's like, they're all human. They're all going to make mistakes.
One thing I wanted to ask about, like, obviously, you know, you're talking about millions, but the impact the tool of BoyCat has allowed to do has been the efforts that we've all wanted to do as individual consumers and finding an alternative path. You have made that path a lot more accessible and easier, right? To the point of, you know, some would argue being able to have an $11 billion impact on some of the largest coffee brand, that being Starbucks, right? And then that market going away, now creating a path for new entrepreneurs, with whether it be Muslim entrepreneurs or non-Muslim entrepreneurs. I think Haraz grew, I think, from like 18 to like 36 locations. They're planning to grow, I think, almost close to 200. Pax and Beneficia, local to DFW, is also expanding to almost 9 locations, right? This market that was sunk out, right? You are now getting these new opportunities to grow. So obviously boycotting works, right? If collectively done. Now, one thing I'm curious on, because there's a lot of brands that exist. The brands themselves may not be particularly aligned with our mission, right? But the owners or the leaders in those companies have said things that are very negative, right? Or very, I guess, pro-Zionist agenda. Some examples that, the CEO of Sweet Greens or Kava, right? Like, what is there a roadmap on BoyCat, expanding into those territories where it's beyond the brand, but those who operate and run the brand? What's your thoughts like on that, and if there is a vision for that?
Yeah, I think the first year of BoyCat, we did a really good job of providing information on companies itself. And we started moving into recently in the past year where it's been who's running this and why are they running it the way they do. Cape Technologies, for example, right? They own 90% of the VPNs basically on the market. They own ExpressVPN. The guy literally donates to the IDF, right? Or, I mean, this is a terrible example because the company plus the owner is bad, but Larry Ellison's Oracle, right? The dude is a single-handedly the highest individual donor to the IDF. It's like, you should be avoiding Oracle like a plague.
Or like Michael Dell, also a large donor to the IDF, right? Yeah.
It's like, those are really important. But for me, in my personal opinion, that's why we created the BoyCat levels, right? We have level 1, 2, and 3. Level 1 is major complicity. Level 2 is the ones that are tied to the complicit companies. Level 3 is like the micro ones. So things like if a local bakery store owner is like, go IDF, it's like, if you boycott them, it doesn't actually do anything to IDF. It doesn't stop a bomb from being dropped. But let's say if the owner was like, yeah, let's go build and help the Israeli economy, and this is what we need to do to boost it so it can protect itself or whatever, avoid that. That'll actually hurt the Israeli economy in the long run because you're actively affecting their economy. It doesn't matter if you're doing it to some like local shop type of thing. And so my approach is like divide it into the right categories and make sure that if you avoid something, it actually has a direct impact, not just because you want to feel your ego of like, I'm mad this person disagrees with me. Will it actively save someone's life if I do this?
When it comes to, making the transition now to like cybersecurity and VPN space, right? And something we talk about all the time, it's like the lack of, I guess, Muslim options in the cybersecurity world, because like in somewhere format ends up in Tel Aviv.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the biggest vacancy. So, I got really excited when you were going into that space. What led you in that direction? Was that always the second goal in mind with BoyCat?
So I bought a domain called thedigitalsilkroad.com. And it's literally that, the digital Silk Road. I noticed with BoyCat what was really cool is that I had hubs in different areas all around the world. If someone had a problem in Australia, I could connect them to a solution in France. If someone had a really cool product in Japan, I could send that product to the US. I noticed that I had a network of distribution of really cool people that really wanted to join an alternative network. And what that means is that if I can prove that I can distribute a product in that network, I can take anyone building really cool alternatives and just ship them off the network. Because there's no shortage of people building cool stuff. There's no distribution if people don't know about it. Like that's the only reality. Like you go to the University of Waterloo now, like every other CS kid's working at either OpenAI or starting a startup. Those kids are geniuses. They can build really cool stuff in a really clean manner. It's not hard anymore. And so we just need to distribute, and we have to figure out the distribution channel. So with BoyCat, I was like, if I can solve distribution for this, we can solve the venture idea of investing in companies that are building alternatives, build clean stuff for everyone, solve the entire problem. But we first need to solve distribution. They control that. If you control media, you control distribution. If you control economy, you control distribution, trade channels and everything. But can you do it digitally? Software is really cool because $0 distribution. All it takes is the right influencers to really talk about things and expands. And if BoyCat can become that influencer, that digital country that allows you to shop however you want in a digital sense, you'll find the answers of how you want to distribute and stuff. So we wanted to pursue that right from the get-go. It was really important.
So when you say distributions, do you mean like physical products or any distribution channel?
For both. So on our roadmap right now, Malaysia has a company called Paragon, Indonesia, Malaysia, that area. They own CAF, like men's skincare, and then also Warda Beauty. Those two alone, and this isn't paid. They're friends and stuff, but it's not paid. None of that stuff is way better than the stuff you see in Europe in terms of skincare. If they could distribute that physical product to anyone overseas, they would win so fast, but they just can't because they don't have infrastructure built for that to happen. And so even for us, if we want to go build that ethical, clean Amazon around the world, we need hundreds of millions of dollars to open up warehouses, to do customer service, deliveries, jets everywhere, flying everywhere type of thing. We just don't have it. But the beauty of it is that software is a zero cost distribution thing. I can tweet about something and it'll reach thousands of people. I can make a post on BoyCat, reach a couple million people, that type of thing. And so that's what I mean by distribution, is that the fact that
the distribution of information.
Distribution of information at the moment in time.
So let's back up a little bit, right? So like at the very beginning of what BoyCat is essentially a way that someone, like as a regular consumer, I can open up the application, check if this is has some level grading of like compliance for different things. What made you determine that was what you wanted for your go-to-market strategy? Like, was that because it was low cost and it was a way to like build up internal network of all the products and categorize? I mean, that's a lot of work. Yeah. But I'm just curious, like, what was the decision? Because you clearly have this like really big vision of like distribution channels and all these things. But like the 0 to 1, why did you pick that? And was that the easiest way to kind of?
It was the easiest way to ride the movement wave, but at the same time validate that we actually needed to build what we were going to build. Because oftentimes you think that you know what people want and you're just going to build it and no one ends up using it. But we could validate this really quickly. We could build it, vibe code it in a month basically, get information and just see what people are doing with it. If they didn't like it, we'd switch to something else. We'd switch to a search engine. We'd switch to an LLM chatbot, maybe or something like that. But it stuck right away. And like in the past now almost 2 years, we've passed like 3.2 million users, something like that. And like that wasn't just like a straight growth. It was like a exponential growth at a certain point. And so we found the right thing that worked, and scanning was a big thing and search was a big thing.
Okay. And so at this point, like you're seeing traction, you're seeing growth, you're basically building up like a database of amazing information as well as understanding consumer demand for, hey, like people care more about their Coke and Salam Cola product versus like skincare, right? Yeah. Or vice versa, right? That's valuable insight and valuable information. I'm assuming it's part of your roadmap to determine how to like leverage that and bring that into the ecosystem. But like, can you talk a little bit about that approach, that strategy, and is that something that you're actively looking at today? And how does it relate with this distribution network that you're talking about?
Yeah. So the first point is, can we reach critical mass? If we can reach a certain amount of users that can control, like $450 million per month in consumer spend, then we reach a point where we can influence small companies and micro economies and different governments. With that, we can present data to them of big, look, these people care about these type of products and so on from there. We can actively take away X amount of millions from your entire company or X amount of millions from your government if you don't switch your stance on this issue or you don't vote in this way, right? And when we get to that point, that's when we can actually use the data properly. But right now, the data doesn't matter. It's just making people feel good for boycotting and doing what they want to do. And so for us right now, our path with BoyCat is twofold. One goes to the nonprofit section, where we do the research of brands, companies, alternatives, and certification of clean businesses. The for-profit is the BoyCat mission, where you can have the alternative economy, alternative products, and so on from there. And that's kind of the direction we're going towards, like the digital Silk Road aspect. And that really started in February. Like that real click happened in February, because in February we failed to raise for our round, and we were running so low on cash. And at the same time, I was on a trip in Australia, Singapore, Malaysia, around the area, and we got our first offer letters to buy our company out. But 2 weeks before, Israel launched a $150 million Hasbara fund. And I had some lawyers look into some of the offers. It turns out it was an Israeli slush company based in Tel Aviv that's trying to buy us out. And it's not that I'm trying to like talk about money being acquired, stuff like that. It's more so like, I was so sad our community didn't back us up as much as our enemy tried to buy us out, because they saw that we were hurting them.
How much did they offer?
12 mil. And that's enough to retire and
for sure. Yeah.
chill type of thing.
But okay, so like this is another question that I really think about for BoyCat, and I think a lot of the statements you made about nonprofit and other type organizations, right? Like it's extremely difficult. Like BoyCat is a mission-driven impact platform, right? It's very hard to translate that into an operational business, and like the fact that you're having $12 million offers to get acquired very early on, by the way, right? It shows the value and impact of boycotting. It shows the value and the potential of something like this. Do you feel you're at a point right now at this moment where like you feel like you're operational or like you have enough of like in terms of like a level of consistency to be able to like, or do you still feel like you are struggling to like raise that capital, that insight and that knowledge? I mean, you have a Rolodex of contacts at this stage. So I'm curious to hear about that.
It's a mix. I think realistically, I don't want to raise fully because you never know where people's intentions are anymore, and you never know what they're tied to. And so it's really important to be like very stringent in your process of picking who invests and who doesn't. The second part is we're basically on the brink of success right now. Like Alhamdulillah, with the past couple, we spent 5 months building this VPN out. We have another update coming out where it's going to be cleaned up completely. It'll now compete with Express and Nord and Proton basically at the highest level. This next week, inshallah. So by the time this podcast is out, it'll be up and running. Where we can do just as good as them. And we know that those businesses are worth billions of dollars and millions of dollars. And it's people that didn't believe in us when we were asking for a little bit, for a good chunk of the business. They don't deserve to be with us when we're already about to succeed. And, in the past month and a half, we brought in, I think, like $75,000. And that's huge for us. Like, that's our first time bringing in money where we have a profitable month. And everyone gets paid fairly, type of thing. And so inshallah, as we keep expanding, as we keep growing, like, we don't need anyone's help that didn't want to back us up from the beginning. And if people want to give, they can give, but it's going to be on our terms versus their terms now.
Yeah, so I completely agree. But I think in terms of like, I still struggle with the idea of how to turn a mission into like an operational business. It's extremely challenging. It sounds like you're on your way to kind of accomplishing this goal, but like, what is like your advice for people that follow the same kind of philosophy as you have, which is like, hey, we want to do something very good for these issues that are out there. They start out as like mission statements where people are creating a lot of nonprofits, various things. What's the framework that they can think about how to make it sustainable and really infrastructure level, like framework versus anything else?
Don't reinvent the wheel. And like, you don't need to create something that doesn't need to be created. Like even for us, our inspiration for business model to start was look at Duolingo, look at Honey, look at these billion-dollar companies that did all the hard work of research to figure out what works and how to monetize their business. And if you're basing your business off of those businesses already, you can just follow the same plan. It works out. For us, it was the main issue is, can you make it as easy for the consumer to boycott as possible? So that means zero friction. But what you can do is you can monetize the other side of it. Can you make businesses pay for ad space to compete for alternatives? Can you make them pay you every time you get a sale? Can you create an affiliate platform? Can you create a certification process that certifies a business as a clean business where they pay you an annual subscription and eventually goes from there? And eventually we got to a point where we were creating our own products because now we want subscription-based models. We want users to start paying for the real clean products and know that they don't just have to avoid stuff. They can spend money in a certain place. And if they spend money, it's going to be a good place. So that's what we really cared about as a whole.
Has a company ever reached out to ask you to remove their product by chance?
No, because we used a very. The question is like being removed off of our product. No, they haven't. Yeah, and they can't because like it's all public information. We don't take any unverified information, and like we just plot from whatever's out there.
Has a company shifted their position?
There's a ton of companies that have shifted. Yeah, 100%.
Are you able to bring to light what those may have been?
I think the most recent big one that everyone can think about is Puma's contract not being reinstated by the Israeli Football Association. And then I think it was Reebok and then some French brand first and Reebok. But the French brand got pressured so fast that they couldn't sponsor the team anymore. And I think Reebok did it for a little bit, then they got cooked at that point. But Puma was a big one where they normally would just redo their contract, but they didn't do it. And they're saying it's not out of anything, but the reality is there's a ton of pressure on it.
So, one thing that it always hurts to hear is when Muslims don't come and like support or, being able to be an investor and going to the experience that you kind of went through. Why do you think that is? And how are we able to create a better culture around that, right? And I mean, what you said, it hurts to hear, but it's the truth, right? It's the fact that the enemy is willing to buy you out versus our community willing to build you up.
Yeah.
Right?
That's a clip, by the way.
Yeah, like that. I mean, that kind of just goes back to when you were a kid, right? Of seeing the tribalism and all this other stuff, like full circle. Like how could we do better? How could you do better? Like what's going in your mind when you're kind of going through this realization again?
Honestly, for me to do better, I probably have to go talk to some of them that's done fundraising for the past decade. You know, it's like, that's just the reality. Like they know it better than I do. But from my perspective and my like younger generation self perspective as a whole, I think the older generation came and immigrated to here for security, and they really like security. That goes with their investments. That goes with things. Even like the older generation doesn't really understand investment. They just understand that we made money, we're safe, we're good. The generation a little bit younger than them is like, we'll invest in brick and mortar stuff. We know real estate's going to give us money. We know this is going to be guaranteed money, basically. I can put money into Bitcoin now and get a really good return. But investing in the infrastructure has never been a thing. Like it's always been individual to community to infrastructure, and we've always been at the individual level. But after October, as sad as it was, it finally moved us to the community level where we're having conversations, we're having roundtables, we're having think tanks, we're having brainstorm. Now you start seeing Muslim accelerators and incubators pop up all around the world. Like you have Muslim Makers, Fridays, stuff like that. You have organizations in Paris and in Australia and stuff that never would have had like Muslim communities being built together and so on from there. France is now bringing one of like the largest, I think they have the second largest Muslim population in Europe, and they're finally bringing together all the builders in one area every twice a year now. And it's like, it's really cool to see like these things happen, communities happening. And once that happens, then we can start thinking about investments. But the reality is like, we have to figure out some way to dumb it down so people can understand like, don't just give me the fish. Teach me how to fish. Provide me all the fishing poles and all the resources and the worms to learn how to fish properly. So
you went through batch 0 with Aleph, right? What was, when you were looking for those types of opportunities, was there a lot of options for you at that time to go through? Like what was the decision process for you as a builder on making that? And I think oftentimes when people see those opportunities, especially with like our generation, like we kind of pin our success to a particular brand or image or whatever it may be, right? So it's like, I got to Harvard. Oh my goodness, I'm going to be successful because of that, right?
Yeah.
I think sometimes when people get rejected from those things, it really fuses out that light that they actually aren't building something worthwhile or that they aren't capable. Now that you've kind of gone through, that phase, like what wisdom would you have to someone who got rejected from YC or any of those types of, I'll just call it incubators? I don't know. Accelerators, right? Like,
it doesn't matter. Like that's just the reality. Who cares what Gary thinks? Who cares what Peter thinks? Who cares what these big names think? It doesn't matter where you, like, yeah, sure, you can go raise money from like A16Z, you can go raise money from Sequoia, but it's like, at the back of your mind, know that money is tainted by people and the leaderships that own the money, that will own your company as well too, are people that support things like the genocide and so on from there. Like understand that it's all tied together. And so like, getting rejected from one of those, like one, you shouldn't even be applying in the first place. Two, it's never worth selling your soul for some short-term gain. Like that $1 million paycheck that comes in from A16Z, who cares? If it's literally, like Allah literally tells us, like if it's meant for you to be, like if it's meant for you to have $1 million that year and you don't take it through A16Z, you're going to get it from some other approach. It's up to you to decide where it comes from, right? Like it doesn't really matter.
No, absolutely. I think that's a really good words of wisdom, because I think a lot of times people try to, I think the world kind of puts this fog around that your risk is coming from the world and not from Allah, right?
Dude, there's a scarcity mindset in the Muslim population. It bothers me so much, especially in the West.
Yeah.
Right?
The irony of that.
It's so disgusting, right? We're surrounded by billions of dollars already, and it's already like, if they're giving me $1 million, I need to take your $1 million too, otherwise I'm going to run out of my money. But in the East, it's completely different. It's like, oh, I made $1 million. Maybe we can figure out how to get you $1 million too, or like give you 500K or something. We'll figure something out. And there's an imbalance of Muslims and how they think in the different regions for sure. But the Muslims of the West has to have a scarcity mindset that they think that the people that give us money are the banks and the VCs and the funds and so on from there. But the reality is like, whatever you think Allah will give you, He'll give you. And so we have to understand that He is, it's God, like infinite. There's no, you can't put it into a box.
There's no bound.
There's no scarcity in His giving type of thing, right? So if everyone got to make 10 million, everyone's gonna make 10 million. Like that's just a reality.
Well, I mean, also like it goes back to everything you've said, right? Like working 18-hour days, but it's not the same equivalent of value that means that you receive 18 hours of day of value. Maybe because you rejected that you said
buyout?
Paycheck, but that buyout, right? Like maybe that's just another opportunity that will propel you into another area that probably has a lot more buttercut in it. It does have more buttercut in it, right?
Year's not over, so if it's meant for me to make 12 million this year, we'll see.
Inshallah khair, if that's what's best for you, we sincerely wish that for you, right?
I'll give you more, man.
Yeah. But I think one of the things that I also wanted to ask you was like, I think Naveed knows this. Like, I have a lot of opinions about accelerators, right? In general. But I think like to see like the rise of the amount of Muslim organizations that are like really focusing on trying to create this network is like incredible. I think it's like what accelerators do is like really get you quickly connected and plugged in. Is that the kind of experience that you had when you joined Alif? Like what was you're part of batch 0, so I'm assuming it's, anyone who knows how to do, things in the beginning, it's always like a little rocky in the first days. Like you don't have your process in place. You're kind of still figuring out how to position that value proposition. But like, what's your take now? Like about Alif, do you think like it's a viable option for entrepreneurs to go there and be part of the accelerator program?
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, anything in the beginning is you're gonna crash and burn. Like that's just the reality. It's like that's how things go. Like every iteration is gonna fail. Like even our first iteration of BoyCat failed. Like right, it takes time to build something really that sticks. But the beauty is that it's not so much about Alif specifically or Friday or Islamic makers or Muslim makers in France or whatever it is. It's more so like I'm glad these are starting to pop up, and over time and with enough funding, enough marketing, enough people supporting them, and Muslims supporting the infrastructure that's being built right now, we'll get to a point where they're all very viable options that can compete with things like YC, A16Z, Sequoia, whatever it is. We're not there yet. We started it in the past year. Mm-hmm. Think about it. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take us decades to get to that point, but it's going to happen.
Sure. Well, Adil, we can talk to you forever and ever. Unfortunately, we don't have that much time, but I have one last question. What was the one advice that you've probably received in your life that probably gave the biggest amount of change in the direction that you're going?
I have a lot of pieces of advice, but I think my favorite one that I remember in the past 2 years hit the most is one of my best friends told me this one thing, and he said, just one dua. That's all you need. And you can interpret that in multiple ways, but the way I like to interpret it in general is that all you need is one dua from someone to make it to the top. Even in the hadith talking about how parents get elevated in Jannah, like they start going through like the levels and they're like, why did I get elevated? It's like your child made dua for you, right? In that same way, you can reuse that and say like, look, all I need, you never know what the interaction is going to be. Giving someone a cup of coffee, opening a door, building a masjid. Maybe your capacity is really big where you got to go build a school, an orphanage, whatever. And Allah test you with that. It's like, maybe that is your one ticket. That one person will make dua for you. Some kid 100 years later after you build a masjid is going to make dua for you. And that's the reason you just skyrocket to the top. You just never know. And that's the reason you get pulled out of Jahannam, you go to Jannah type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
You just never know. So everything you do has to be intentional in the sense that you don't expect anything from anyone, and you'll never get rewarded in this world. You might get some of the blessings will come, but never expect it, because as long as you do good for others unconditionally, Allah will provide the rest, and you never know when it's going to happen. But inshallah, it happens next life, because that's where it matters.
Well, that is a perfect ending to this podcast. Well, Adil, founder of BoyCat, thank you so much for joining the Caravan podcast. It's been wonderful and pleasure having you. Jazakallah khairan, brother.
Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum.